poorly. I slept very poor. I didn't seem to need much sleep back then. Now I need more and I'm getting less. So I don't know what's going on there, but what I am going to start with, okay, and I'm going to open the chat up, but if you've got questions, you can type them in the chat if you don't want to ask them out loud, but please don't hesitate. I've had a few questions come in, but not too many. So when I don't see questions coming in through email, I get a little concerned. What you all should have done, and bear in mind, okay, and you have to be patient. I am going through second revisions still. I did suggest that, I mean, all of you are welcome to submit a second revision. Some of you I asked to submit a second revision of your resume, just because there was, you know, there might have been quite a few things that I had suggested, and I was hoping that I could take another look at it before you uploaded it. But you have to remember that, you know, until such time as the job closes, okay, you can actually swap out the resume that you've uploaded to apply to that job. Okay, that's really, really important that you understand that. Okay, so you're not locked into those documents until midnight on the closing date. Okay, so yeah, oh, great, excellent references. Yeah, I know it's tough and I know it's hard to get them. Okay, and I know some of you have been struggling getting 3. That's rule of thumb. Optimum is 3. If you can only gather 2 together, keep trying, you know, to get that 3rd, but just upload your 2. And then when you do have the 3, you can just replace that that references document with a third, with your 3 references. Okay, so don't worry so much about getting the 3 in. I want you to strive for 3. You know, put all your feelers out, email your teachers and your former employers and people you volunteered with. Excellent, that's great. You got a reference letter. Okay, now do you mean reference letter as in letter, document, or do you mean they've agreed to be on your references? Okay, you got to, okay, that's lovely. All right, so what I'm going to suggest, okay, probably shouldn't, but what I'm going to suggest is if in fact you don't have, okay, you don't have your 3 references, but you do have a reference letter. Okay, so maybe you have 2 references, okay, maybe you have 2 teachers or 1 work-related reference and a teacher, a professor, or a teacher, it could be from high school, and then you have a reference letter. Submit your reference letter, okay, with those 2 references, and then you've got your 3 technically. Now, mind you, the employer can't call that reference necessarily unless there's contact information on there. And what I suggest is for those of you that do have reference letters, ask that individual if they would also be so kind as to allow you to insert their name on your references list. So that would imply that they could potentially be contacted. A reference letter is just, it's lovely, it's marvelous, it's extremely professional document to have, but it's sort of static that way. They can't ask any questions. And I mean, if it's a great reference letter and it gives them all the details they need, great. But oftentimes they might have some additional questions, you know, in relation to the job that that they'd like to inquire into of that individual. So see if in fact that person would allow you to also be using them for your references sheet. What's this? Okay, yeah. I understand, believe me, I have computer issues, you know, from time to time, we all do. So all I can say is do your best to get the documentation into Career Ready now. I grow concerned when I don't see that you all have been uploading documentation into Career Ready. You can't view jobs until such time as at least a resume is uploaded, okay, at the very least. You have to have a resume uploaded. And I've got quite a few jobs posted, okay, right now. So I think I'm upwards. I have 2 more to post this afternoon. They just came in. So we're probably around 35 jobs. So these employers, you have to remember I told you right at the beginning of this course, this is a very, very time sensitive process, okay? I'm not saying that these employers will not, absolutely not repost positions, because sometimes they will. And what reposting means, okay, is that job that perhaps you've already applied to, or maybe you didn't apply when you saw it the first time, it may become active again. And for those of you that apply to that job and see it reactivated, don't be concerned. It doesn't mean that you won't necessarily be offered an interview. It may, but it may mean that the employer wants to see more resumes before ascertaining who he or she wants to interview. So don't be concerned. You don't need to reapply. You only need to apply once to a position. But if you do see a position go live again, often it's those very factors that they want more students, they want to see more students. So for example, if an employer posts a position and they only see 4 students have applied, they may think, oh, gee, I wanted to look at more. I wanted to see more applicants before I decided on who to select for an interview. Okay. Another thing is too, when you see interviews being posted, and that's quite soon. I mean, I think we have maybe one job that closes on the 31st and the rest close around the 4th. A lot of the positions I'm posting are closing on the 7th, some the 11th of February. But once you start seeing interview schedules, you may see that there might be another interview schedule for that position, and they may just be interviewing on different days. And one thing that you will see, if any of you have applied to the job, is you will see indicated if interviews have been scheduled. Now, I want to give you all a heads up about that, and it's in that information that you're supposed to have read for last class, but I'm going to underscore it now. If you've applied to a job, and you look at that section where it says the status of the interview, it will give you that information to everyone. So anybody that's applied to that job will see what the status of the position is. So if interviews have been scheduled and you didn't get an email stating that you were among those that were selected for the first round of interviews, then that means you weren't selected, and that status is there to make you aware of what activity is surrounding that job that's been posted. Okay, so you can always check back, to see what's happening with the job that you were really interested in. Okay, check back to the status of the posting. So if interviews have been scheduled, perhaps you weren't selected. That doesn't mean until such time that job has been closed and filled or canceled, because it can be canceled or it can be filled. It's still open, it's still active. And I have to underscore that in many cases, a lot of the positions that I post that are just sort of hovering in uncertainty, they may have not interviewed, or they may have interviewed and not selected a student. They're hovering in uncertainty because I haven't been informed what's happening with the position. So I reach out to the employer and I'll say, XYZ company, please let me know you posted a position. It closed back on such and such. Did you want to interview? Did you want to repost? And sometimes I just don't hear back, or they're still, sort of not undecided as to how they want to proceed. So yeah, just bear that in mind, that it's not that I'm not staying on top of communication with those employers. It's because I can't get any information on what they wish to do with respect to proceeding with that job. And I know that can be frustrating because, you're anxious to find out exactly what's going on and you really want an interview. But in many cases, well, in all cases, what I will do if there's been a prolonged period of time since the position closed is I'll send them an updated resume packet. So taking out any of the students that have already been placed in a position, I'll send them, your resume again, if you're still available and you had applied to the job, so that they can take a look again, fresh eyes, and hopefully they'll set up some interviews. And on the flip side, sometimes interviews will happen. I won't get any feedback necessarily immediately with respect to decisions. And you have to bear in mind that as soon as I get a job offer, you're going to be notified if that job offer is for you immediately. Okay, those offers go from the employer to me and straight out to you. Sometimes they'll go directly to you, and in those cases, you let me know. Okay, Lisa, I got a job offer from such and such. Okay, but I don't sit on offers. We need to get that, again, time sensitive piece moving along, and you'll have that offer. You need to respond to me within, who remembers? How much time do you have to respond to a job offer? Does anybody remember? Hint, it's quick. 24 hours, excellent. Excellent, AK. I'm only seeing AK. Is that Adrian? I think it's Adrian. No, it could also be Aiden. I've got a couple of AKs in this class. Okay, so it's Adrian, all right. Okay, So good, 24 hours. Now, if you're lucky enough to get a job offer on a Friday, I'm not gonna set the 24 hours in motion on that Friday. You'll have till Monday, okay? Yeah, I know, Mujaba. That happens. I mean, and you have to bear in mind too that sometimes it hinges on a funding source, okay? That, you know, Canadian citizenship is part of how they're being funded, or it could be we have it's national goods, and there's different employers that, because they're under these constraints with shipping goods back and forth across the border, there's also the mandate that the student be a Canadian citizen. So there's a couple of different scenarios that mandate Canadian citizenship. But yeah, make sure, it's good to see that you're paying attention to that. Make sure that you continue to pay very, very, very close attention to any of those details in the posting, and you don't apply to a job if you don't meet those criteria, because you're just gonna, it infuriates employers because they have to sift through them again. It shows that you don't have, you know, the instructions, and maybe later on you may want to apply. You don't want them remembering that sort of, you know, relationship, that initial introduction, right? Okay, so I'm just thinking with respect to other housekeeping items. I'll go over at the end of class just what I want you to be doing for next class. But what I want you to be doing, top of the list, is ensuring that, okay, all of that information that was supposed to be uploaded into Career Ready and into the course, and I'm still checking off boxes. You know, I take a quick look at your transcripts, and then I check off the box that you've done it. And I take a look at your references. So I do look at your references, and I'll make suggestions. For those of you I've given feedback to already, I will make suggestions, but some of you have just submitted some fairly recently. But what you do need to do, top of the list, and I'll send out another email with this, like I always do, is ensure that the documentation, your resume, okay, your transcripts, your references are also uploaded into Career Ready. Okay, has there been any issues with Career Ready, or any questions that anybody has at all with respect to Career Ready? Anything at all?
Excuse me, Professor.
Yes, yes.
I have a question.
Okay, excellent.
Like I have now the 3 pending courses, so we'll have the 3 pending courses till the end of this semester.
Okay.
So, like, am I right that I will not be able to pick my work term one, like, in any case?
Yeah, I'm very glad that you asked that question. And who am I speaking with? I'm looking for your, I've got to get better at finding out who's.
Gurmitter Singh.
There you are. Okay, now I see. You're the only one that doesn't have the microphone. Now you have the microphone slashed through. Okay, so so how it works is in order to be eligible for co-op, you can be no more than 2 courses behind. Okay, so 3 or more courses. And this takes into account, it has to necessarily take into account those courses that you may be prevented from taking because of just where you're situated within your POS. But just think about how many courses you're going to be behind by the end of the term. And if it is, Gurmitter, as you mentioned, 3, and you know absolutely without certainty that there's no way that you can pick up those courses to get you to 2, because you can't have 2 failed or behind courses, it's just 3 or more, then you are correct. You cannot seek for the summer term, but remember, it's only 1 term that you'll be unable to seek for, okay? You go back to school in the fall, okay, it's for semester 5. What am I saying? Yes, fall, because you're out for the summer, and then it's fall. Okay, I think I've got the seasons straight in my mind.
Okay.
Okay, so fall, you go back to school. So what you need to do, and you have to discuss, and I encourage you, you have a wonderful student success advisor in Abby Taylor. She's marvelous. She'll give you the detailed information you need. You have a great coordinator with Louis, Dr. Durazio. So you need to be meeting with those individuals, getting a firm, cemented academic plan so that you know just, you know, presumably where you're going to be at, because you don't have a crystal ball. You're going to work very, very hard, I know, as we all do, and you all should be doing on your coursework, so that you can get back on track as much as you can. But you can take a look and you can say, okay, if I take thermodynamics now, if I take machine design now, if I take my optional one course now, can I be to the point where in the winter, okay, so that's January 2023, when you go out on your second work term, will I be at a place where I'll be able to seek? Okay, because we'll be evaluating, we evaluate before every work term to ascertain if the student is eligible for co-op. So you can definitely get caught up, you know, sufficiently to be able to seek for January. And even if for whatever reason you can't, then perhaps you can take a CE course. Perhaps, you know, there's a course you can take during the winter, and then you can get back on track and you can be seeking for the summer again. Okay, and you'll still have your 8 months, right? In order to get those 2 required courses, work terms, because remember, you need 2 co-op work terms to be completed for your graduation. So does that make sense?
So
Yes, it makes sense. But can I like do like I am now eligible to work 20 hours like per week.
Yes, that's correct.
So like will I be able to work 20 hours per week in my next summer because there will be no work time for me.
Yes. Yes, you can. You can work the 20 hours, and it's always good to, and I know that it's 20 hours for sure. It wouldn't be an approved co-op position though, okay? So what you can do, and remember I talked about PLARs, okay? So for those of you that are not at the point where you're going to be able to seek for summer, okay, you could potentially work, and I know that with permits, it's a different scenario and you only have so much time and so many hours. But if you have a 420-hour job, okay, and you find yourself, I mean, but bear in mind, you still have 3 work terms, but I mean, I know that it's concerning. And if you can find a work experience, you know, because it would be a non-co-op capacity because you're not eligible, you could potentially utilize that work experience though towards a PLAR down the road if you needed another work term credit. Okay, so if you found yourself not being able to seek maybe for all 3 work terms come January, maybe you could only seek for 2, you could get, you know, 1 work term, you know, during the regular course of events, and then utilize that other work experience from the hours that you worked in a program relevant position towards a PLAR. So there's options, and we do that. There's flexibility within co-op so that we want to see you succeed. We want to see you get these work terms. We want to do everything we can, but we need you to meet those eligibility requirements. Absolutely, we can't budge on those, but we can be flexible. That's why we have things like the PLAR in place. That's why we have things like the 2 flex terms in place, so that you have 2 flex terms, you know, to get caught up with coursework or, you know, take a term off if you need to, you know, to enable you to actually get involved in those other work terms, you know, later on when you have the ability to focus on a work term.
So, Professor, quick question.
Sure.
So basically, our work term is gonna start in May, right?
That's correct.
And then the second one will start in January, you said?
That's correct.
So does that mean that we're not gonna have classes? It's just gonna be work term for the
right. It
Oh.
is a dedicated work term.
Oh, okay. So no
Yeah.
classes at all in January.
No,
January
unless
till
you take them, like unless you take a CE course, you know, maybe during the, you know, like an asynchronous course, something like that,
oh
focusing on your, and that's why I went through the rotation on the first day to show you guys, you know, like,
yeah.
this is
Oh,
how
okay.
it works,
I
right?
was just confused. I was just making sure. And then we come back for school on April, or
Uh,
no courses after
May,
that.
June, July, August, so you're back in fall, right, for semester 5.
Okay.
And you're full into full-time coursework, right? You're back academic semester 5. And then I start posting jobs in October, okay,
Oh.
for the winter term.
Mhm.
Okay, so it's constantly rotating, and then your winter term, that whole year, okay, those 3 work terms, it's all co-op. That's dedicated co-op. Okay, so I mean, you can take part-time, but that's why I talked about courses and taking courses while you're working, that it's not recommended, it's not advisable, but if you must, I mean, and if there's a course that isn't offered until whenever, there's those
Yeah,
courses.
yeah.
Then you can discuss that with an employer in the interview and say, I really want this job, but it's the situation, need to pick up this course.
Yeah.
That's why it's beautiful if it's offered and, through CE, and it's an online course that you can take. So does
And
that,
then
yep, keep going.
yeah, and then by the end of next year, our program would be done, right? If we like take 2 terms of work and then
Okay, so here's the thing. If you want to do something to shorten the amount of time that you're here, so if you only did one work term is what you're asking me, and then you
two
went
two
back to
terms,
school?
like if you've done every single work term that you're required to do,
Okay.
uh,
Oh,
so
yes.
then next year would be your last year at Mohawk. Is that
Well,
correct?
it's okay. So how it works is you're out for summer, you go back in the fall, you have your 1 year, okay, an entire
Uh-huh.
year, and then you're back for your final academic semester. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so for example, okay, I
Yeah.
have students right now that will be you come next year, okay? So
Mm.
these students, okay, so let me explain. So I have students right now that they will be going out on their well, they're on a second, so third work term now, okay? So they're in the middle of their 1 year right now, okay? So they'll have their fourth work term in this, or actually, sorry, third and fourth. Yeah, I'm gonna bring up the, it's easier for everyone, including myself, to take a look at it again so that I can show you exactly what I mean. But it is graduation date. All right, experiential learning. Here we go. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now so that you see what I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are here. So semester 4 is right now, January to April. Okay, so 2022. Work term 1, May to August. Then you're back to school. Okay, there's semester 5. All right, from September to December. And then here's your 1 year work term. Okay, so January to April, May to August, and September to December, you're out for an entire year, or 3 4-month work terms. So I post for 4, 8, or 12-month opportunities here in semester 5 in October, because I start posting a month into the academic semester prior to the actual work term. And each work term, I post jobs for those students that are on either a 4-month or maybe they're on an 8-month. I'm always posting jobs for you. Okay, so if we're in 2022 now, okay, then we're 2023 here. Okay, so we're 2024 in semester 6. So your graduation date is April 2024. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, that is the shortest that we can do, right?
No, it's not actually.
Oh,
What you can do, and you need permission, is you
yeah.
can potentially fast track. So, but that would mean that you would have to forfeit all of your work terms except the first.
Oh,
Okay, so basically what would happen, and again, please, I have to underscore this, and I will answer your question very, very shortly, Chris, because I did see that your hand was raised, okay? But what you do have to remember is that if in fact you do decide to do something called fast tracking, it has to be approved by the associate dean. Okay,
yeah.
so if you wanted to fast track, you would have to forfeit your work terms. The only one you could take advantage of would be this one. It would be semester 5, okay, as normal, okay? But you would have semester 6 here where your work term 2 would have been, okay? So
Okay.
again, if this is something that you want to do, and maybe you have plans to do something else, maybe you've got work experience already. I mean, he takes George Miltenberg will take into account all of those factors when he's assessing whether or not you are eligible fast track, and grades, I believe. But you would have to look at forfeiting those work terms. But yes, it is possible, but needs to be officially approved by your dean.
Sounds good. That's good to know, actually.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Christ, I think you had a question.
Yes, I do. Okay, so I noticed. Okay, so for work terms 2, 3, and 4. So
Yeah.
like let's just say after you finish work term 2, do you have to find a different placement to do work term 3 and such?
Well, you may not. I mean, if in fact, it depends on how long you're committed to a job. So you see, when you're looking at jobs now, and I underscore, you can only apply to those jobs that are posted as 4-month opportunities, right?
Right.
But you'll see also that I post 4 or 8-month opportunities. I'm not posting any 1 years because I don't have any students available for 1 year as of the summer. So basically, you could be with an employer for 4 months. You could be with an employer for 8. If you apply to a job and you accept an offer that states 8 months, you are with that employer for 8 months.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So you need to understand that it's not just 4 months. If it's posted as an 8-month position, they want you there, they're training you, you're committed. But if it's only a 4-month position, okay, then I post again, right? I'm going to start posting again a month into that work term. I'll let you all know I'm posting again for those of you that are looking for a job. And then you would be applying to get again and going through that process. Now, that being said, you may be loving your work term and maybe loving having you there. And there may be a really good chance that they want you to stay. Okay. Now, it's early in the term when I post. I mean, it's a month in, but oftentimes employers will know or have a good idea as to whether they'd like you to remain if they have it in their budget. So what I always tell students is, it's never too soon to say, hey, I'm loving it here. I could really see myself staying here for another work term. I know that it's early, but if in fact the opportunity does present itself, I would be very interested in staying on. So being enthusiastic and positive and showing an employer that you're interested in remaining in your current role, or not. Maybe you have decided that, hey, it's good experience, but I really like to look. So if they approach you could say, thank you so much, but I respectfully would like to look at other opportunities because I'm looking to maybe, gather some more skills in a different area. And that's why one of the things that I wanted to do, which I didn't have time to do last week, is something that is going to help you all to sort of get a little bit of a better sense about opportunities in your field, because it's so diverse, the landscape. And one thing I do at the end of and I've taught this course for years and years, but one thing recently I've had come to the forefront with respect to students, asking, because I always ask for feedback. What can I do better? What would you have liked to see in the 6 weeks that I have you here for? Is learning about other jobs in your field. So that's the nature of this of group activity that I do want you all to really invest some time in, because it's going to produce a document that's going to give you an idea as to 10 different careers that I see cropping up quite a bit, not just in co-op, but out there. They may not be any of them may not be something that interests you. Highly doubt that though, but they'll at least give you sort of a cross section, a little bit more of an intense look at, a more comprehensive look at different fields and what other areas might look like for you. Now, bear in mind too, when you're doing research and you're looking at jobs, they're going to differ a little bit from co-op positions for the most part, although co-op positions can become quite involved and you can do quite a lot on a co-op term. If you're looking at full-time positions, obviously there's going to be more expected of you. It's going to be more challenging work. I mean, they're going to expect that you have finished your diploma program, so you have more knowledge to bring to the table and experience to bring to the table through your co-op work terms. So, so this will certainly give you more insight. You can do your research at any time and investigate further, inquiring into, of professors that have worked in that field too. We have a lot of professors that work at the college that have had hands-on experience, actual experience in these fields. Those are great people to talk to as well. But your co-op work terms will give you opportunity to ask questions of people who work in the company, and not necessarily about the job that you're doing. Okay, it can be about other jobs, in the field. And believe me, oh my goodness, the wealth of information that you will have at your fingertips through these opportunities within these companies is it's just unparalleled. It really is. It's formidable. Take advantage of it. Ask questions. And remember that the students that show enthusiasm and ask questions and investigate are those students that are remembered. And you're not doing a bad thing when you ask about other opportunities. You're exploring. You always want to make sure, though, that if you're doing a job and you're asking about another job, that you always preface it by saying, I'm really learning a lot. I'm enjoying a lot in this position. I really appreciate this opportunity. I'm really, this is my first job in the field. I'm taking, an opportunity to explore, what's out there. And I was just curious about, about the quality role. I don't work with anybody in the quality area, but I was just wondering if, perhaps I could shadow, Jim or Jane. She works in that area one day, because I'd love to get some more information. And, knowledge is power. And for you to have more understanding of how that company works, how the different departments operate, is going to only be a feather in your cap and will give you leverage later on. It'll give you more skill, more knowledge, more insight that is of more value to an employer down the road. Okay, so just think in terms of, I've said it before, I'll say it again, likely before the end of these courses or these classes, but take advantage of those opportunities to ask questions. Who should I contact to skip from, oh goodness, from semester 5 to 6 without doing co-op 2, 3, and 4? Okay, I would connect first with Dr. Durazio. Okay, touch base with him, and he will facilitate a meeting to assess your request with
Sorry, teacher, doctor, no, what's his name?
Louis Durazio, Dr. Durazio, your program coordinator. So he does not give the official approval. You can go directly to George Miltenberg as well, if you would like, because he ultimately will have to approve that request.
Just if you can send us his name by the chat.
Okay, I can do that. So you weren't all aware of the associate dean of your program?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the associate dean. And but what you could do is Durazio is your program coordinator. You could start with either or. Okay. Right. Okay.
And should I contact him early, soon, or like after I finish first co-op?
You know what, you could investigate now. I don't think anything is ever too early. If they say it's a little early, just maybe get a little bit of information on exactly what's expected. If that's the route you want to take, I don't think it can hurt. Just say, you're just gathering information. You understand from, your co-op teacher that you're going to have to, obtain official approval for fast tracking. And just wanted to just sort of, get a sense of what that looked like later on. You could say that. And then you sort of have sort of an idea. It's always nice to have that information, because then it's just kind of sitting in the back of your head and you're not sure. And it's nice to have closure with information. That's me anyway. I like to have that. Okay, any other questions? Because I'm going to dive right into a quick Kahoot. Any other questions about anything? Great. I'm glad you all are asking. And it's good that I guess I went over that rotation model again too. So they're dedicated work terms and dedicated academic semesters. But all good information and all good questions. Oh, one last thing for housekeeping, own job forms. Okay, so I've had a lot of you requesting more information on the own job forms. Remember that the own job form needs to be filled out with your prospective employer and emailed to me. That's it. To initiate the approval process, that's all I require. And then basically what I do is I connect with that employer, I ask some questions, I look at the job description, and I will let you know as soon as I hear back from that employer, okay? If in fact that job has been approved. Now also remember, because I'm getting emails and, oh, I'm looking for my own job and I can't find it, like, what if I can't find a job? I'm posting jobs, remember? Okay, so while it's great that you are looking on your own, and I encourage that you should be doing that as well, don't forget that I'm also making opportunities available to you via Career Ready, okay? And make sure that you're checking those and that you're applying to jobs, because that's the most important thing. And that's what I want you to focus on, reviewing jobs, you know, customizing those documents like we did in class, you know, making sure that you're customizing your resume, remember? Customizing that resume that highlights a qualifications section, ensuring that, you know, in order of importance, you're addressing that job posting very, very clear, very, very definitively, okay, in that first section. You're speaking to what it is that employer is looking for. But also, if in fact you are expected to submit a covering letter, you are doing that and you are customizing that document as well. So yes, to those individuals who've asked me about customization, you should be targeting your documentation, cover letter and resume, cover letter only if it's asked for. Remember, you only apply with the documents you've been requested to apply with, but they should be both customized for each posting. And that doesn't, it sounds like a lot, but remember, it's just quick little tweaking. If you've got the bones of your cover letter together, you're going to have no difficulty doing that. And your resume, oftentimes it's reordering information, but it also may be speaking to skills that you didn't mention, you hadn't mentioned before, but that you have. And now you can include those in that first section, okay? The rest of your resume is going to stay the same. Your work experience, relevant work experience, volunteer, all of that's going to remain the same. It's really that first section that's going to change. Your cover letter is a little different. I mean, you're going to have to do a little bit of tweaking, but I don't see a lot of cover. There's the odd cover letter that's being requested, but not as much. Okay, you'll see that. For those of you that have been looking, you'll see there's not as many. It was nice to see that your transcripts have been uploaded. I'm glad to see that. But just continue to keep doing that. Continue to keep, you know, making sure that those transcripts are together and uploaded. I would hate to have it delay an application, you know, because they weren't there when they should have been there, you know, when the resume, the scrolling PDF went to that employer. Okay, so yes, the own job form. The own job form is also available in Career Ready. Okay, you can also get to it there because there's some supporting documentation there for those of you that took the time to look at your quick links and look at the co-op resources section. It resides there as well. It lives there as well. So it's in the course and it's also in Career Ready. Okay.
Professor, I have a question if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead. Of course not.
Yeah. Sometimes they are mentioning on the co-op 4 or 8 months. Do I need to include that on my letter or application? That I need 4 or 8?
No, absolutely not. All you need to do is you need to just make sure that you only apply to those postings that say 4 months. Okay. Because if in fact they've posted it as a 4-month opportunity or a 4 or 8 month opportunity, they're open to either. Okay, so you're safe. The only time that you wouldn't want to be applying to a job is if it said 8 months. And no, you don't need to indicate that on the cover letter or your resume. Don't worry about that. Just in the act of applying, you have acknowledged that you meet the duration. Okay, so that you are applying to a 4-month position, okay, or a 4 or 8 month position. But if you see a job and it's posted as 8 months, don't apply because they're not being flexible with the time. They only want an 8-month student. And oftentimes it's, you know, they just want they're going to invest a lot of training time. They don't want you gone after 4 months. Oftentimes that's the reason. Okay, so remember, bear in mind that these opportunities come your 1 year will be available to you. You'll have opportunities to dive into those, you know, 8-month opportunities. At that point, it's just, they're not available to you now because you're only available for 4 months in the summer. Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Anything else at this point? How many job postings are there going to be throughout the coming weeks? If I had a dime for every time that's been asked me through the years, I would be very, very, very wealthy. Okay, so
I have a question as well.
okay, I'll answer this one first. I have no idea. Okay, I don't have a crystal ball with respect to how many jobs will come in. We've got a great number right now, and they're continuing to come in. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, we've been lucky with respect to the number of opportunities that I've been able to post for students. Normally, I end up posting many, many more jobs than are actual students available to fill. So, I mean, if you're looking specifically at a type of job, that's when you should be you know, looking outside of Career Ready, if you're waiting, for something to come along, remember that, you could be missing out on some amazing opportunities if you keep waiting, and it may not ever come. So remember, these are entry level, excellent opportunities and foot in the door positions. Okay. They're not going to be glamorous. They're not going to be the most challenging, but they're going to get your feet wet. You're going to get, opportunity to diversify your portfolio, and you're going to be able to just continue to be able to be more selective later on because of these early entry level positions. Now, Jackson, were you the next that had a question? I'm so sorry.
I'm not sure if anyone else had a question. Did anybody else want to go first?
I will.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
For when we want to customize the resumes, do we
Yes.
upload multiple to Career Ready, then select which one? Like, do you select which one you use when you apply for the job?
You absolutely do. Now, that's
Okay.
why I had asked you all to go through that Career Ready section, because it walks you through the process. And I actually did a live demonstration last week, so you can take a look at the recording. But yeah, you are selecting what documents that you want to apply with, and you can upload as many as you want. There
Just
is no
double checking.
limit. I have had, now don't get concerned about this, but I've had students like with 2 and 3 and 4 pages of documents that have been uploaded because they've customized and they're looking at. So believe me, there's no limit. You can upload as many as you need to. Just make sure that you are indicating, by that, whatever you save it as, what job you're applying to keep yourself organized, have a format, because you can get mixed up real quickly, when you're applying and you're creating application packages. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Jackson, go ahead.
Okay, so I was just wondering, if I want to do like 4 terms, can I just put on my initial own job form that I'm gonna do like 16 months, and then we're good for that?
Okay, so you want to tell an employer, I'd like to work for you now, and I would also like to work for you for an entire year. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I've been with them for a year now. So I
Oh,
mean,
you already
they've
have.
basically said like they want to keep me on. They've got a few projects lined up that I'm going to be on. So
Beautiful.
if I can put that on the own job form, is that fine?
Absolutely. I mean, if you are 100% sure that you want to remain with that employer for all 4 work terms, and the employer has agreed that they would like to retain you for all 4, you can specify that on the form. If you have any trouble typing it in, because I know it's a PDF and drop downs and things like that, just send along an email with me, with the attachment specifying that. But yeah, no, you can for sure. I mean, if I've approved the job, if I've looked at it and I've said, oh yeah, absolutely aligned, the employer is complying with WSIB, with COVID, safety training, etc., because those are the things, remember, that I go through with them to evaluate, then yeah, absolutely.
So just with that, like the COVID safety training and all that stuff,
Yeah.
exactly, like what are you looking for particularly?
Really, what I do, and I take a little bit of extra time with this, and that's just me. I'm highly safety conscious when I'm looking at new students out on work terms. So what I do is and it's also provisions of the co-op department as well. But what I do is there is what's called an employer impact assessment form with respect to COVID-19. So we do have to have them complete this form. It tells us that they have a pandemic plan, there's social distancing in place, there's measures, et cetera, et cetera. There's quite a few boxes that need to be ticked off. So we assess that.
Okay.
We might not have all the boxes ticked off, but I mean, if there are enough ticked off that, we're confident.
Well, it's an online position, so I mean, I can include that too. And
oh, is it? It's
yeah,
remote?
like I work from home. I basically right now I'm just self-driving and
yeah, I still have them complete it because it's part of the process, but it's
no worries.
Yeah, if ever you had to go on, site, then I would have that form stating that was there. So it's
all right, cool.
in our directory. But yeah, if it's remote, yeah, you don't need the COVID mandate to be satisfied, which is, I think it's by February 15th, the two at least minimum 2 shots. But I do ask about the WSIB because that still certainly comes into play, even though it's part of the form, just to direct, because sometimes, employers are busy. They might not
Yeah.
see that they're signing something that says WSIB, so I just want to ensure that that's there. I want you to be covered. And yeah, that's it. And I just, because you're at home, it doesn't matter, but what I normally do, because it's on site, is I will say to an employer, I just want to ensure that the student will receive, you know, safety training.
Yeah, I
and-
am in the office like the odd time for meetings and stuff, so
Perfect.
that's
This
reasonable.
applies.
So yeah,
Okay, so this applies. I mean, you're 98% remote, but you are, you know, that 2%, you know, so it does apply. So yes.
yeah,
So basically, yeah, that's it. And then, you know, I just, I let them know exactly what the commitment is. So about your evaluations that I have yet to speak with you all about, but those electronic evaluations midway and at the end of the term are what's required. And then I underscored to them, you know, if there's any issues, to connect with me directly and to include me in the conversation if in fact something that has been addressed in the workplace, you know, because once you're there, you are, you know, being supervised by that company, by that employer. So I'm not involved in that. I'm not. But if in fact there's something that's transpired, maybe you're late every day, or you're not doing the work, or your attitude is
Yep.
not very good. What I like to do is I like to have them certainly rope me in to let me know that it's been addressed, there hasn't been any improvements, so that I can offer support.
Yep.
And, you know, meet with you, discuss it, you know, and moving forward, just underscore, you know, what the repercussions are if you know, but also it's just to find out what's going on, because sometimes, you know, as we all know, especially during these tumultuous times, there could be things impacting the ability for you to do your job. You know, there could be family issues, there could be mental health issues. There could be so many different issues that you need help with. So I am there as a resource and to connect students to those resources should they be struggling and just not and haven't communicated that for whatever reason to their employer, and they don't have to. But if there's something that I can do, I want to be there and I want to have that opportunity to intervene, to assist. So basically that's what I say to it. I know, long story long, but I like to be able to, so that you know that it's not just, you know, what am I doing when I'm actually approving that form? Well, no, I am going through some steps, and I want to ensure that that employer is going to communicate with me so that I can, you know, best support you while you're out there, plus the safety, plus everything else I just mentioned. Okay.
yep, for sure.
Alrighty. Anything else before we dive into a quick Kahoot? It's just quick, guys, so it should be fun. It's fun. You need to loosen up, and you've been listening to me jibber jabber for quite a while now, so it'll be a bit of a break for y'all. Nothing yet? Okay, good. All right. So, well, not good, but nothing yet. If there is, just let me know. It's not a good thing. I mean, all questions are good. Okay, so I am going to, share my screen and talk myself through it, because that's what I have to do. And of course, I closed our class up when I opened that other document. That's what I do best. Okay, so let me find it. So this is just a quick Kahoot that I created based on just sort of general observations. And these are, you know, things that kept cropping up with respect to the revisions that I've been sending out. So for those of you that have already made the corrections, that's great. And they've addressed, you know, the things that, you know, you're going to see in the Kahoot. That's marvelous. But it's always good to reinforce. And for those of you that maybe didn't, or for those of you that haven't read my suggestions yet, please do that. Although I must say that I've been very impressed with respect to how quickly you all have made the revisions and got back to me, most of you. For those of you that I did suggest, and I'm getting to them, I'm going to be getting to them in the next couple of days. Hopefully I'll have them all, you know, the second drafts, because I'm through your first drafts, of course. I was through them Sunday night. But I'll have all of the second drafts, and I'll go through all of your documentation quickly as well to make sure that, you know, everything looks good. But I want to ensure that you're taking the time. I took the time, okay? And I know you all took the time to create those resumes, but I took the time, painstaking time, to go through. Okay, so I want you to read those suggestions because they're there to help you. And a spelling error is all it takes for your resume not to be considered. And I can't underscore to you enough, download Grammarly, go to the site. So many different things that I picked up through Grammarly on your resume. You could have done that. You could have made sure through a spell check in Grammarly, well, Grammarly will do everything. But even just a spell check, some of you didn't do. So things like employment and responsibilities, or words that would have been picked up were not picked up. So there's no excuse for that. There's no excuse for spelling errors, okay? And really, and I know that you have a lot of other things going on, but there's really no excuse for formatting issues, like with respect to consistency with spacing or bullets that go awry. I mean, if I'm seeing it and the bullets are all over the place, you know, they're not aligned on the one, I mean, you don't want to look at that. You don't want to look at that because your eyes are trying to reconcile that everything is, you know, it's asymmetrical. You know, use a basic format. The cleaner, the better. It's not boring. It's better it be boring than hard to follow and unprofessional looking. Okay, so take into account what I'm saying to you all, and remember that I'm doing this to help you. I'm offering this constructive feedback to help you. So that's in a nutshell why I and the reason why I wanted to just go over this quickly through the Kahoot. And these are the areas that I found most often were areas that you needed to ensure you were paying special attention to. Basic areas, okay, that I had discussed in class, but some of you had forgotten when creating that resume and submitting it. Okay. All righty. Okay, so I'm going to share screen. Okay, so you're seeing the Kahoot. So I just need you to actually go to kahoot.it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll also put it in, well, it's there on the screen for everyone, but I'll put it in the chat too. Okay, so kahoot.it, and then what I'm going to do is share my screen once I start it, and I'm going to take my time this time so I don't just go too quickly, so y'all have time to actually get the PIN code. Okay, there we are. So I'm just going to wait for all of you to. I love the names of these. Love the music too. Excited otter. Noble raccoon. I think that might be everybody. No, not yet. Give it a couple more seconds. Well, 20 more seconds. Okay, we got 20. Okay, I'm going to start it. Okay. Let's keep going. Agile Koala, 918. Okay, 13, correct. Minimum grade recommended for inclusion on a resume, 80%. Okay. Knowing Possum has made it to the top of the list. Okay, so this one here definitely want to make sure that we are not congesting that information onto those 2 pages, okay? And if you're doing that with 1 page, okay, then spill to a 2nd page. I said to many of you in the comments to make sure that you're spilling to a 2nd page if there was a lot of congested text on the one. So make sure you're thinking about that and just how it would feel if you had to read a lot of resumes and there was too much text, a lot of text for you to take in. Okay, so where are we at now? Knowing Possum still with quick Finch right behind. Okay. Adorable squid. I love these names. Okay. Next one. There's 10, by the way. Okay, everybody, make sure that you do not add those references to the bottom. That's why it was a separate exercise, okay, a separate document. References go on a separate page. Please do not add them to the bottom, and do not add employer names within the work experience section. A couple of you did that, so ensure that you take that information out and reserve it for that references page. Okay, where are we at? Knowing Possum continues to be knowing, and then Power Panda's coming up behind. Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. Let me see.
No, it's okay. We can do it while we're going, but
You know what? Yeah, hold on. Oops.
I'll answer after.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. When we pause after this question, for sure. Let's listen to
Okay.
this again. What is the correct spelling of AutoCAD? So the question is, what is the correct spelling of AutoCAD? Okay. I guess that was pretty evident by your selections. You know what? I wish we could repeat it. I'm not sure if we can. I know it was quick, but most of you got it correctly, and I'm sorry about that. I know a lot of you might not have gotten a chance to respond, but let me see. Anyway, the majority of you got the answer correct. So AutoCAD. Okay, so you've got auto, and then CAD is capital letters. Now, some things like SolidWorks, you'll see it differently. You'll see it in all caps. You'll see solid and then capital W, but SolidWorks is fine just spelled as is in one word. I've seen it multiple ways. So just be careful, be cognizant of spelling terminology correctly, okay? Very, very cognizant if you're using that terminology, and something as simple as PowerPoint, because PowerPoint is capital P at the point, you know, your eye is drawn to those errors when you read PowerPoint so many times as an employer, and then you see it spelled incorrectly. You're directed there. Okay, so sorry about that. What was your question? What is it about the former?
It was about the references. So on our resume, should we just say, should we have like a header that says resume and then say available upon request, or should we just have nothing?
You know what? That is optional. And I used to be very, very, very hard and fast about, you know, that being present at the bottom. It's entirely up to you. I think it is nice to include, and that's why it's on the sample college resume, but it is optional for you. If an employer asks for references, if they're interested in you, they're not going to ask, they're not going to refrain from asking for references because you didn't indicate it at the bottom. So while it's nice to include, it is entirely optional, but that's a great question. A great question. Okay. All right, so where are we at now? Yeah. Okay, all righty, the Power Panda's back in the second place. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, we've got some mixed responses here. Okay. Alrighty, so here is the situation with employer information. You need the company name, you need the job duty, and you need the city, okay? So all you need is the city and the province. You don't need Canada in there. And I know this was a difficult question, but think about your work experience section, okay? You don't need a postal code, you don't need the entire address, just the actual city and the province is fine. Okay? All right. Let's see here. Okay, all right. It's neck and neck here. All right, let's resume. Excellent, excellent. Okay. So quite a few of you, I did mention it too. It's easy to sort of slip in and out because you know you want it to be something that is a real testament to what you did. And I know that you get involved in talking about your job duties, but you can't use words like I and my. If you were, you know, incorporating a professional profile, which for most of you, it's a little early because you know you need to be out there in the workplace to actually have information to populate that professional profile with, you know, or an objective you could potentially, but the body of your resume, the core areas of your resume, like your job duties section, like your volunteer work section, please refrain from using I or my or any kind of personal pronoun. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okie dokie. Number 8. Okay, alrighty. So we had some variations on this, and believe me, you are not the only class to have variations on the name of your program, but it is important that you use the correct name. So Mechanical Engineering Technology Advanced Diploma. Now, if you wanted, you could actually even put in brackets co-op, but I didn't add that. But ensure that you're utilizing the correct name and you're not referring to it as a certificate because it is not a certificate program. It is a diploma. It is not a bachelor's program. Nobody selected that one. And you're not in a technician program. So it's important, again, that, you know, when you're speaking to titles, names of programs, and these could be names of programs that you've previously taken, that you are ensuring that you're indicating that information correctly. Okay, so please pay attention to that. Those are basic details that you can easily fix and that you can easily stay on top of. Okay. All right. Oh my goodness, we've had some, yeah, look at that. Things are moving around a bit here. Okay, let's resume. Number 9. Okay, what do we have here? So 9 of you, yes, okay. So I know that this is something that many of you are uncertain about with respect to creating your resume. But if you have a college certificate or a diploma, as it says there, you don't need to include that high school information. Okay, so and employers, yes, they are interested. They want to see that you've completed your high school, and yeah. So again, one thing I did want to mention, and I only saw it a couple of times, but for those of you that have completed prior diploma programs or degree programs, one thing you want to make sure that you do is, if in fact you did not complete the program in its entirety, so maybe you completed a year and a half of a 3-year degree program, you don't want to include the name of that program, okay? Because when you state the name of the program, it implies that you obtained that diploma or that degree. So what I recommend you do, you can put the name of the institution, okay? The dates that you were there, because you definitely want to include that information. And you can either state relevant coursework again includes, okay, not again, but like you did in your Mohawk information, or what you can do is you can state coursework completed includes. So if it was something that was, not very aligned with your current program of study, maybe it was a business program, which is great. It's always great to have business background, business program. You could state coursework completed includes, and then again, 2 to 3 courses from that program. Okay, but again, not the name of the program. It's the name of the institution, the location, the dates you were there, and then coursework that you completed. And if you completed certificates or got some additional certifications, you could potentially put it in that section as well, if you did not have a certification section. Okay, so where are we at now? Okay, all righty. There it is. We're going to resume for number 10. Oh, I'm so happy to see this. That is correct. A bulleted statement is not a full sentence, so it should not end with a period, but it should be capitalized. Another thing that I did see quite a bit, I'm going to take that in. We're going to show media first, and then we're going to do this. Quick snail, congratulations. And oh my goodness, Clever Meerkat, as well as number 1, Power Panda. Congratulations, Power Panda, well done. Okay. Okay, all right. I'm going to close this up. Am I having more fun than you guys? I think I am. Okay, I love being Oh, your prize. I thought about it, What would you like? Tim Hortons. I live at Tim Hortons for the most part when I get out of the house, which is not too much since we've been in here because of COVID-19, grocery shopping, and then I come home. Okay, so great job, everyone. I'm happy with the way those results turned out. And I'm glad to see that you all are learning with respect to those things. Now, goodness, what was I just about to talk about? Who remembers? Because it's escaped me. Was I just going to tell you all about a Lindt dark chocolate? Would you now? Dark chocolate. Most people are milk chocolate lovers, aren't they now? So that's interesting. Perhaps a virtual Lindt dark chocolate I will send you, Christ. Yes. Dark chocolate is better for you. And my husband has been telling me recently that you should have, I think, a piece a day, or at least 2 pieces a day. No, 2 pieces a day total of dark chocolate, because it is very good for you. I don't know. That's what he says. I thought he was just sort of, making a case for eating chocolate, which could be the case as well. Okay, so true. Okay, there we are. Okay, so let me see here. Okay, so what I do want to go over, and I can't recall what I was going to talk to you about at the end. Hopefully I will remember. I should have just taken the opportunity to speak about it at the end of the Kahoot. I may very well remember. But resumes, again, as I mentioned in that email, for those of you that read past the first paragraph of the email with the resume and submitting your resumes, is that it is the most important document in your job search. Okay, testament to your knowledge, skills, and abilities. Often the only thing that employer has to base their decision on whether or not they will bring you in for an interview. So please make sure that you're spending the time, taking the opportunity to revise, to make it your own, to make it reflect authentically what you have to bring to the table, and make sure that it's a professional outline of your skills, and an honest one, of course, and that you feel confident with that final version. Because if you don't, and if you're sort of on the fence about whether or not you want to submit it, then you need to do more work on it. And I'm here if you want to resubmit. If there's something that you're not quite sure about, you've made some, maybe some quite a few different modifications, and you'd like me to take another look at it, I will. One thing I do want to mention, this wasn't what I was going to say earlier, but is some of you have opted to use a template. And as I said, I don't have problems with templates normally, unless they are restricting you from, elaborating on your work experience, and it's offering you limited space to actually, fully develop your job duties and your education. And I have to say that maybe 8 of you submitted within a template where I actually spoke to that. And don't get me wrong, I love, the templates, they can look fabulous. Okay, I know they do. And looking at it really quick and just taking a glance at it is fine. But when you start to read it, you don't have the opportunity to elaborate on things, then you're not doing yourself a favor just to preserve this template that is just a quick, oh yeah, that's nice. Oh, but where's the information? If it's not allowing you to include that information, then it's not a good template for you. So in many cases, I did take the time to explain that. And in some cases, especially students were, sticking to one page and not spilling to a second. And I could tell because the margins had gotten really small and the text had gotten smaller that they were trying to maintain one-page resume. It's okay to spill to a second page, and you don't have to completely fill up that second page, but just don't allow yourself to be forced into a template. Think, oh, I've invested all of this time. No, it's never too late to take that information and move it elsewhere. And again, even if it's not the most spectacular formatting, if it's clean and clear and professional and all the information is there, it's a good representation of what you bring to the table, you've done your job, it's not as important. As time evolves, you can look to revising the formatting. Just make sure that you're not underselling yourselves, okay? Because you're forcing yourself into those templates, or you're not elaborating, okay? Remember, volunteer work, for those of you that didn't include it, tutoring, volunteering at one-day events, include it. Interests, it's not, you don't have to, but it's a nice springboard for conversation and an interview, and it shows a well-rounded student, okay? And normally what I say to students is, 3 max, interests, and you don't want to go into too much detail, but make sure that they're specific. So as opposed to just reading, mention a genre of reading. Maybe you like, I don't know, Canadian poetry or fiction, history. Okay, be specific as opposed to just reading. And that will offer a little bit more dimension to your interest. Okay, all righty. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to show you any questions at all about anything to do with resumes or anything at all. No. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to share my screen, and I'm going to take you back to the course. Okay, and I want to, in case we run out of time, okay, I want to actually just show you what I have created for you for this week, okay? So I know that, believe me, I know that interviews can be stressful, but there are a lot of resources in the course. Take your time going through them. I've included some videos you'll see there. There's a lot of information online too that you can get just by doing a quick search, okay? Think about, I mean, Indeed, Workopolis, they have some wonderful career resources as well as LinkedIn. LinkedIn is amazing, okay? And I've got a link in here to LinkedIn, to the section of LinkedIn that actually speaks to interviews. And what they've done is they've created an artificial intelligence interview assessment tool. I'm going to take you to that a little bit later, but what I want to do first is talk about what's due for next class. So, I mean, due for next class, I mean that I will leave it open so that if you do decide to, you know, for example, I'm going to look right here, the interview question feedback opportunity. Can everybody see this screen? Somebody give me a thumbs up or say yes. It should say interview question feedback opportunity. Does everybody?
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so what I've done, and some of you are familiar with Flipgrid, or some of you actually inserted a hello at the beginning, and thank you to those, I think 2 people that did that. But I know some of you logged in and looked at it. A lot of you did. But what I did was I created a group for Flipgrid, and then basically what this does is this allows you, and this is private, okay? But basically this will allow you to answer the question, okay? Tell me a little bit about yourself, okay? It'll allow you to answer the question, tell me a little bit about yourself in a in 1 minute. Okay, so you have 1 minute to do that. And basically it will give you the opportunity. I'm going to see if I can't just open it so that you all can see it, because I'm not showing everything here. And that's not it, but it's down here. So I just had it open. Okay. Okay, all right. I hope you all, it says that you can see it, so I'm thinking you can. Okay, so basically, use the Flipgrid camera to respond to the question. So basically, for those of you that have ever recorded yourself talking, okay, that's what Flipgrid is. All you need to do is click on response. As a student, you'll have a little button here. It will say respond. And then you can basically make sure your camera's set up. It will tell you if it's not set up correctly. You have to turn it on. And then you can respond by answering the question in 1 minute. So you have 1 minute to answer the question. Tell me a little bit about yourself. It will not be shared with the rest of the class. So this isn't going to be like the welcome, okay, where I said, say hello, everybody in the class, say hello to each other. I will be the only one that can see this video. I'm going to watch it and then I will comment on it. Okay, now we're going to go through some interview information today, but what, you know, I will, you know, the sort of the overarching areas that I will look at is the quality of the content of your response. So did you stay on track with your response, or did you kind of go off on a tangent and not really answer the question? Your eye contact, so looking into the camera. So remember, it could be an in-person interview, but it could also be a virtual interview. So I've included information in the course too, of course, about virtual interviews. We'll talk about them in a little bit, but it's making sure that you're making that eye contact. You know, that your background is professional, and normally a blurred background or you know, a solid color or a solid wall color that's not too dark. You don't have bright lights shining on your eyes, although I'm one to talk because I know these lenses are a bit reflective. I don't know what to do about that. And the tone and the volume of your voice. Okay, I'll speak to that. I'll give you a little bit of information as to how you came across when you answered. And then of course your body language. And I'm very much, I use my hands quite a little bit, but I mean, if you're using your hands in such a way that it's, you know, concealing your ability to answer the question, it's distracting the interviewer, then I will let you know that. So I'll type a response back to you in Flipgrid. So you just actually go back into Flipgrid and my comments will be there. So that's how that works. Okay, so I'm leaving it open, okay, for this week, but you know what? No, I'll continue to leave it open and I'll keep checking it. In case you hadn't noticed, I really like Flipgrid. My daughter keeps saying enough about Flipgrid. Well, I like Flipgrid because I have her test the links sometimes to make sure that you all can access them. But I know that it's out of your comfort zone, but what's an interview? An interview is stepping outside of your comfort zone. This is not a regular everyday situation, but you need to be learning to become more comfortable with those settings. And I'm telling you, the more opportunity you have to record yourself speaking, to actually, you know, if they're in your bubble where you're actually speaking with someone and you're practicing, you know, with a sister, a brother, a girlfriend, you know, a husband, whatever, the more comfortable you're going to get answering questions, making eye contact, and speaking to your skills and experience, okay, and what you offer. If you're not practicing and you just think you're going to be able to wing it, I mean, there's those people that, you know, just have that ability, but those people are few and far between. Normally we have to practice. Most of us have to practice. And most of us don't necessarily have that confidence going in, but I'm telling you, the more practice that you actually put into it, the more confidence that you'll have and the better you will do. And you're just going to continue to improve. So tools like, you know, you just sending me a Flipgrid, okay, and me getting back to say, hey, that was good. You can send me another one back if you want, refine it a bit. Or, you know, maybe depending on how things go, maybe I'll throw out another question there to you all, maybe about a strength. Maybe I'll pull up a job posting and I'll ask you to speak to your greatest strength with respect to this posting. I mean, we'll see how things go. And I hope that some of you will take advantage of it. It's just me, I'm just taking a look. I'm offering you feedback just as I did with the resume. So, you know, use that tool, or as I'm going to show you, use LinkedIn. Okay. I used to be so shy, but I started talking to myself in the mirror, which was kind of fun. That's exactly it. I'm telling you, that is a perfect way to practice. And now that we have so many opportunities to record ourselves with our phones, you know, we can just keep doing that, right? We should be probably more used to speaking virtually than we do in person now, because we've been home so much. And we've been doing all of these Zoom interviews, we've been having classes online. So it's become really comfortable for people. Probably going to be more uncomfortable actually meeting in person now, because we're not used to it. But we have to remember that, and that's why, and I know that's out of your comfort zone, I said this last week, getting into groups and talking to people that maybe you don't talk to all the time, it's good for you. It's good for you to learn to collaborate. Just start talking. We're all people, we all experiencing, it's very, very similar things. You all are students, you're all working together towards a diploma. You're all working at finding a co-op job. You've got lots of things in common. And, you know, when you're presented with a task and you're presented with something that you have to reach, a goal you have to reach, you got even more in common. So start, you know, going out on a limb and participating more in those groups. And I know myself, I'm a fairly, you know, in groups and with new people, I'm quite shy myself. You know, it takes me a little bit, but you have to start somewhere. So, you know, suggesting something or adding something or finding a link and incorporating it, you know, into the conversation is how you're going to feel. Even if it's just this much better, it's going to be that much better. You're going to feel so much better about participating in the group when all is said and done. And then next time you have to participate, you'll do a little bit more and a little bit more, and it'll be that much easier for you. And you'll have developed more skills in communicating, and you won't feel as shy or as, you know, self-conscious to speak to your own point of view. And that's what it's all about, because you know, your co-op term will allow you to do that too. But yeah, you know, if you can start now and you can start, you know, learning how to voice your opinion about things, you know, then it's going to be, you know, a little bit better for when you're actually asked, perhaps at a meeting, you know, to talk about a project that you're working on at your co-op, you know, and you will have to do that. You know, you will have to engage with other people in the team and discuss things. And you want to be able to have the confidence to say, hey, I think, you know, I have an idea, you know, or a suggestion on how we could troubleshoot something, right? So, you know, just take those little steps and you'll find that, you know, you'll get there faster than you think, you know, with respect to your confidence. Okay, so I do want to, so that's Flipgrid, okay? I'm gonna go back into the course, hopefully. I will, or maybe not. Okay, I'm gonna take it out here. And I'm gonna have to go back to it because I've lost it. Okay, there it is. Okay. There we are. Okay, so class 4. Okay. So co-op process for interviews. So we spoke about, or I spoke about the interview process, okay, within Career Ready. So what you will be doing, as I explained, is you will be confirming your interview time within Career Ready. You'll get an email. It will go to your Mohawk College address. So make sure, for those of you, because I saw a lot of Gmail accounts on there, the occasional Yahoo account, Microsoft, other accounts, make sure that you are checking your inbox daily, okay, for any type of interview schedule, any type of information from me, because my information is always sent to your college email. So if you predominantly check another email address, then, you know, do what is necessary to have all of your emails going to one place so that you don't miss any important information, because I won't be chasing you to have you confirm your interview time, okay? That is expected, that you're going to stay on top of those emails and you're going to make sure that you promptly confirm your time in Career Ready. And what if you can't and you've got a conflict? What do you do? What do you do if there is a conflict with one of your labs you absolutely can't miss and an interview that you've been slotted for? What do you do? What's the process? Anybody have any ideas? You can't get to an interview?
You can check with the professor.
Absolutely. Thank you. Excellent. Absolutely. That is the first step. See if that particular lab or that particular test can be taken at an alternate time. If it cannot, okay, and if you cannot reschedule it, that's when you what? What do you do then? I know this seems like a very basic question, everyone.
Would it be
but
like reach out to you in the job to see if you can figure it out, like a different time?
That's correct. Absolutely. That is correct. You need to email me ASAP, okay? And let me know that you have a conflict. You've already spoken with your professor. It can't be rescheduled. And then I just go back to the schedule. There may be a way that we can move students around who haven't yet confirmed. And then I'll send out an email back to you. And I'll let you know, we've been able to, move you into this spot. Is that going to be okay? What I like to see from students, though, is alternatives. So if you can say to me, hey, Lisa, I've got a, well, don't say, hey, Lisa, you have to get professional. You have to start saying, good afternoon. I cannot make my interview time. I'm wondering if I can have it rescheduled to, 11 o'clock as opposed to 10 o'clock because I have something taking place. So give me some options so that I can go back to the schedule. I may not be able to, we may not be able to reschedule for that day, but you might have to look to another day, but that's okay. At least I know when you're available. Because I'm just going to send you an email back and say, okay, well, when would you be available for the interview? What's the soonest time? And then, we'll go from there. And, employers are flexible. They know you're in school, so don't be worried about that. But please make sure we try to accommodate them as much as possible. So just make sure that there's no stone unturned and you've checked with your professor about rescheduling your test or presentation or whatever it is. I know labs are difficult to reschedule, so I'm definitely empathetic there. I know that they are mandatory if they're in-person labs. So just let me know about those, okay? And if there's exams taking place, I normally don't get a copy of the exam schedule. Somebody can let me know. I've got an exam, then I can usually get a sense of, there's going to be a group of you that aren't available for that point in time. I mean, I know sometimes they fall outside of the official exam week. So somebody can say, hey, Lisa, we've got these exams, then I'm much appreciative. Okay, so preparing for an interview. So what I've done is I've created these process documents for each stage in co-op. As you've seen, they're these mustard documents, and they're just really overarching things that you really should be thinking about. I've spoken about using the calendar, using your phone, using your calendar in your email to ensure that you're not missing interview times. Now, one thing I do want to underscore with respect to interviews that are scheduled virtually, what you will have is you will have an interview schedule, and that interview schedule will need to be accepted. Okay, so you have to go into Career Ready, but the interviewer will also send you an invite. Now, I'm not a part of those invites, so just make sure that when you receive that invite, you accept it from the employer. So that's a two-step process. Then you have to confirm your time in Career Ready, but you also have to accept that invite. Now, bear in mind that some employers don't necessarily send them until 10 minutes before the interview. So don't be nervous about that. Don't be concerned. Sometimes it's later rather than sooner that you receive those invites. But if you still haven't received an invite and your interview should be taking place, email me right away. Okay. And I'll follow up with the employer. We'll see what's going on. Okay. So researching the employer is a huge part of preparation for the interview. Okay, going to their website, ensuring that you understand what products they create, any type of manufacturing environment that that you're looking at working in. Examine that job posting, of course, so that you know exactly what you would be expected to do, and you need to be doing that to ensure that you are practicing speaking to those skills that are aligned with that posting. But going to the website, looking for articles out there too. Maybe there's been some recent news surrounding that company. They've maybe just merged with another company, or maybe they bought another company. And that might be great information that you could speak to within the interview to show that you've done your legwork, you've done your homework, you know your stuff, and you're ready and you're interested and serious about this job. Okay, so research, and also always make sure to construct 2 questions. Okay, why don't I make that big? 2 questions. Okay, so that at the end of the interview, okay, you have something to ask. Not necessarily 2, definitely not 3. That's too many. But 1 or 2 questions based on the research that you've done about that company, based on the job posting. You need to come up with 2 well thought out questions, and don't rely on the tried and true. What does a typical day look like? And certainly I'm going to put this out there into into the atmosphere. What types of questions shouldn't you ask your employer? Any ideas on that? Any questions you should stay away from? Anybody?
How much you getting paid?
Thank you for that. Yes, let's just wait on that question. Let's let you get the job offer first, which will have the rate per hour. Anything else? What else do you think you should avoid with respect to questions? Anybody else? Oh, come on. Think about a question that would not be a good question for an
When is break? When is smoke break?
Oh, that's it. That's it. Thank you. Yes, one of those. Anything else? Do not ask about what else? Anybody? Along those same lines? Vacation? Maybe? Perks? Anything to do with, well, breaks were mentioned, but anybody else have any ideas as to what a poorly worded question would be for the end of the interview?
Avoid asking personal questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's great. And that's not what I normally hear. They can't ask you really personal questions, and you cannot ask them very, very personal questions. So personal questions about, are you married, or do you have a family, or, are you whatever nationality, those types of things are definitely off the table. And it's so bizarre because, it used to be, and I'm 52. So going back when I was late teens, early 20s, I remember there were applications. I remember applying for a store in the mall, you know, to work, and they wanted a picture of you. They would put a little, you know, tab on the end. And this wasn't, you know, obviously if it was, you know, if you were an actor, you have to submit your portfolio and there's pictures, but it wasn't an acting gig. This was just a jewelry store. So things have come a long way, but yeah, things like, and that was in the content about the resumes, you know, political affiliations, religious background, you know, all of those types of things, you know, they can't ask you about, and nor should you ask them. So, you know, it's common sense now, but way back when it was definitely, I remember I had an interview once and they asked me if I was married. So they can't do that now. And that's going back quite a bit too. I think it was early, well, no, mid-20s, maybe mid-20s. Okay, so I want to go through a few things with respect to interviews. Now, interviews, please let me know if you have questions. Just, you know, speak, raise your hand, start talking, because I know that a lot of students have quite a few questions about interviews and are a little leery about certain parts of the interview process. But I'm telling you, it's all in the preparation. I cannot underscore that enough. It is all in the preparation. If in fact you do your homework, you prepare, and I know that you've got, you know, deadlines, but if you do things like list your skills as they pertain to the posting, okay? And I am actually sharing this with you now because I know it's a very, very simple document, but I think that it's extremely helpful, and that's why I continue to share it. And I created this document, you know, quite a few years ago, but it still holds true. Just like you want to customize and tailor your documents to each posting, so too should you be ensuring that you're actually, you know, writing down the skills that you have that that actually apply to that job, and an example of where you've demonstrated that skill. So basically, what you need to be doing is you need to be ensuring that you've examined that, just like we did in class, you know, with our Jamboard exercise. You're underlining those skills, and you are thinking about an example of where you have demonstrated or been evaluated performing that skill. So think about 5 different skills that you've, you know, pulled from that posting and an example of where you've demonstrated that skill. Okay, and you will definitely be a lot further ahead when you're called upon to answer questions, many questions, such as, why should we hire you for the job? You just refer back to that document, and you can actually look down at your notes if you've made them. That's professional. You can jot down information throughout the interview as well. You can go in there with all of your notes, make them organized so that you can easily get to things, but have those skills ready at hand so you can answer, yes, I'm a great fit for the job, because you identified that you're looking for somebody who's worked, you know, in fast-paced environments, you know, troubleshooting on their feet. You know, I've worked in, you know, a Tim Hortons for 3 years now. I know what it means to have, you know, a lot of competing priorities. I've been successful in that position. I've, you know, obtained Employee of the Month 3 times now. But you want to have examples punctuating those skills that you state. I cannot underscore that enough. Now, situational behavioral questions. I do want you to go through this information here that I've included. There's actually questions and answers here. Basically, when you think the STAR method, okay, what you're doing is you're actually painting a picture for an employer. So you're showing them, okay, this was the actual place, this is what happened, this was the outcome in a nutshell. And situational questions, okay, or behavioral questions, you know, as you can see here, and as you'll see through the resources that I've provided, those questions enable employers to get a sense of how you've responded to different settings historically. Okay, so an actual experience with, say, an irate patron. How did you handle that situation? And then that is historical. So it largely will tell an employer how you would in the future handle that same situation if presented with it. So it gives them an indicator, okay? And that's extremely important. It's really good for an employer to get that, that sense of, okay, this student is able to, or this individual is able to handle stressful situations because they've illustrated an example where they actually had to deal with somebody who was just so upset, you know, couldn't be calmed down, and they were able to diffuse the situation. You know, they were able to give that individual the information that they needed, the resources that they needed, and that individual walked away happy, or that, you know, that situation was dealt with perhaps in a different way, but the end result was positive, that you were able to take care of that situation, whatever it may be. So they just they want you to paint a picture for them. Okay, and in answering those questions, the STAR method is something that helps. It helps us keep on track, because when we're nervous, it's easy to ramble. Okay, so if you think STAR, what was the situation? Describe the scene. What was going on? What was happening? And what was your role? What was your involvement in it? What were you actually doing? How are you affecting change to that situation? And then, what did you actually do? What steps did you put into place to deal with that particular situation? And then, of course, the outcome. What was the result? I'm telling you, when you're nervous, it's great to be able to have something to look at, to actually to go through, to keep yourself on track. Because again, when you're nervous, you tend to ramble. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do now, okay, because I did want to do it last week, but I definitely want to take the time to do it. I'm going to have you review some interview information. Don't worry, this is not the last of interviews. We're going to go into interviews next week. I knew I would be able to just touch upon it, but I wanted to answer questions and go through some things today. But what I do want to do is I want to take you into the activity with the Google Slides. So I'm only going to give you 10 minutes today, but this is something that's going to remain open. So I want you to revisit it throughout the week. Once you find more information, you will definitely still continue to have access to the Google Slide, and you'll be able to add information as you see it. But basically the activity, I know there seems like a lot there, but basically you're researching one of these job titles. Okay, so depending on what room you're in, room 1, junior mechanical designer and drafter. So basically you're going to go out there, you're going to find some details about that job, and you're just going to add them there. This is a Google Doc, well, it's a Google slide, but you can continue to right click and add slides as you need them, each group. Just make sure that at the top somewhere, the names of the individuals that were actually participating in the group are somewhere. Okay, so in that slide. And what we're going to do, because there's junior mechanical designer, engineering technician, junior automation designer, manufacturing engineer, these are job titles that oftentimes, well, I derive them from the co-op postings, but also graduate opportunities as well. So I want you to just take the time, find some general information, you know, in breakout rooms, but it's going to be open. You're still going to have access to it throughout the week. And so continue to add and populate this document. And this is going to be a resource document for the entire class. We're going to be able to go back to this document, and you all will be able to see the information that that you had pulled together based on this particular job duty. So I've given you places to go, like the NOC, the National Occupational Classification, and you should be able to link to that. And there is a link right there if you click on it. Indeed, you can actually look at job titles. And anything that you want to add, so it could be even pictures, or again, links to videos or to articles where you found additional information about this job is going to be helpful. Anything that you would find helpful seeing yourself. Okay, we're back, everyone. I was so impressed with how much work was being done. I know it's a short period of time, but you all have access to the to that document throughout the course of the week. So I would like you to revisit it, continue to add to it, and remember, you can add pages to your slides. Okay, so if you want to do, because I saw that, you know, pictures were going in there, it looked great. You can right click and keep adding pages. One last thing before we go, okay, although, is there any feedback, any questions about the assignment? You're all, I'm very impressed. I know that you all dove right in right away with a very short period of time. So good job, everyone. This is going to be really valuable to you all to be able to dive in and to look at all these resources and see what's out there for that job. and it's good for you to have an understanding of what's out there. You may not have explored, these job titles before, and you'll have that information, and you'll take some time to look at it and review it and see what's there and what you'd like to maybe pursue. One thing I do want to mention before, why am I a little box? I don't know why I did that. But one thing I wanted to do before we go is I wanted to let you all know with respect to the question in Flipgrid, okay? Think about, okay, when an employer asks you, tell me a little bit about yourself. What you want to do is you want to give them a little bit of background, but you want it to relate to your program and the job. Okay, so you don't want to really go off on a tangent, about the activities you do in your spare time. Speak to, your high school experience. Say something like, I explored, robotics in high school. The teacher introduced me to this experiment, and it spurred me on. Or I worked with my dad, on cars, and I was always interested in mechanical things, and I have a mechanical aptitude, and so I decided to pursue mechanical engineering. And speak about your experience at the college. What are you enjoying about it? What have you really been able to find a passion in, or something you're interested in? And let them know that you're really excited about the prospect of a position like the one that has been posted, because, and then speak to it. Maybe it's a quality position. Or maybe I mentioned quality earlier, but maybe it's a design position, and you've always loved design, and you wanted to use your design skills and capitalize on them because you've really done well in high school and now into college, and you want to apply them to a real work environment, and you're really excited about this opportunity and would love, the chance to demonstrate those skills and continue to refine them. So that's a little bit of an overview about the tell me about yourself question. But there's going to be more resources that I'm going to direct you to. I'm going to send you an email, and I'll target them just like I have in the past. And it'll be a way for you to get a sense of, how to answer basic questions. And then we'll go into a little bit more, of course, next week with respect to interviews. Are there any questions at all? I know we're at 3:01. Anything at all before I bid you all a fond farewell for now?
So for the resume, if we want you to look at it again, we'll just do a resubmit it in the resume section.
Yes, I'm glad you asked, Luke. Yes, just resubmit it back into the course. You can upload as many copies as you want. So you can continue to do that. And I just see them. I'll see a black dot beside your name if you've resubmitted. So I'll know to go there and to look at your new submission, okay? And my Canvas saves my revisions. So remember, I can see them, and I can see the revisions that I've suggested in the past. So make sure that obviously you're reviewing those and you're affecting changes based on those suggestions before you submit a second, and in some cases a third draft, okay?
All right, perfect, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Any other questions at all at this point in time? No? Okay. Well, thank you all for participating today and being actively engaged in this class. And I'm looking forward to next week's class. And if you have any questions, please let me know. Look for my email, and I'll give you some more information about next week and what you need to be doing to review and prepare for next week's class. Okay? Have a great rest of the week and weekend.
Have a good one.
Okay, you too.
Have a good
Bye-bye
one.
now. Bye.